Hello, welcome back.
It is the next day, of course, in real life, but in this game, we are getting ready to start the operating round, which is the meat and potatoes of the game. Obviously, the stock round is very important. And just a quick refresher, these are where the regional and minor companies are. And remember, the regional and minor companies are restricted to laying track only in the region that they started. So if you started in France, that's the only place you're allowed to lay track. Now, technically speaking, these majors are allowed to go outside of their starting country, but not yet. The rules are very specific that a 3 train has to be purchased and there has to be a merger. So meaning that one of these minor companies, like J, for example, would need to merge in with a major. And then and only then can you start laying track outside of your original borders. Now, this is where 18OE has rules that are specific to 18OE. If you play a different 18XX game, you're not going to see some of these rules, but they'll have other nonsense rules that are just as weird and crazy. So as far as this goes, remember, when we go major, the stock goes from here over to its corresponding side on the pink side there. These counters here, once they move over, it just represents this is the value of a share of stock. So, for example, if Medici wanted to buy somebody else's stock, he would now have to pay $80 a share versus the $65 that it was when it was over here. When we move to the operating round, all of these go away. They're no longer necessary because the value of the stock is represented up here. So this says $80, just like that says $80, except now it's going to move up and down and around on this track. So this static value over here is no longer valuable. So this just goes out of the game. So I have a little baggie. I put components immediately in their baggie. Otherwise, cleaning up this game after it's over is a nightmare. So I won't delay any further. Let's just move this over. And we've been in the stock round for however many videos. So now we're going to move to operating round 1. The very first thing that happens is the privates pay. And this is something that you might hear some 18XX players say, pay your weenies. Because, privates are weenies. I know I said I wouldn't explain it, and I did anyways. So how does that work? So let's look at our character first. We have 2 privates. This one, Star Harbor, has $15 on it, and then this one has $25. So 25, 35, 40. So we get paid 40 bucks. That's what that means. And that money is available to us immediately. Now remember, it goes to our private money. These are the victory points for winning the game. The money that's on the companies are not going to help us win the game. So these privates are going straight into our personal money. So that's a good thing. And getting a lot of private money early is actually very valuable. So we're going to come here to De Gaulle, and you'll see he has 2 privates, one for 15, one for 10. So he gets $25. So we're grabbing $25, putting it on his stack. So let's go around to, this is Mr. Russia. He has 1 private that gets him $20. And I know that might be hard to read, but trust me on that. And I just realized my little mini bank over here is out of money. So I'm going to go grab another stack of chips. So you might be noticing that I'm using poker chips for everything. And they are a wonderful application for this game. But if you buy the game, you're going to get paper money, which is awful. So anyways, let's grab $25, hand it to him. Okay, and then we go to Mr. Lord Wellington. He has $15 and $0. So we're gonna just grab him $15, and that's his personal money right there. And then we come over to Medici, and he has 3 privates. He has a $5, a $5, and a $10. So that's $20. So I'm gonna just reach over real quick, grab $20, and put that in his personal money, which we will put up over there. And then these are just, you have to keep track of all the shares that you have. So he has 3 shares of MZA, which are worth 75% of the stock, etc. You want to try to keep those together. Otherwise, you will make math and accounting errors. Okay, so that's the first thing that you do for the operating round. Obviously, if these were all individual players, they'd be collecting their own money, and this step would be over in 10 seconds. Now, going back to the board, we're going to start in turn order. So first thing that happens is player C gets to decide, do you want to go first, player C? And player C is choosing no. He does not want to go first. He sees no value in going first. From a strategy perspective, player C is the one that is in the Netherlands there. They are right there. And they do eventually want to connect to Berlin. They do eventually want to connect to Rotterdam, but they're not in a hurry. The reason you want to go first at this stage of the game is because you want to lay your track before everybody else does. And if you get to lay the track, then you get to lay it the way you want to. Whereas if you let somebody else lay track, they may lay it in a way that doesn't favor you. He has no concerns over other people laying track in his regions. So he's fine, is basically what I'm trying to say. And so he will go during normal turn order, and Plum is first. Plum is a regional, and regional companies. So we're gonna just grab one of these 2 trains real quick. On the back of the 2 trains, I know it's funny, but it's on the back of a 2 train that we actually have to use in the game, is a little sheet here. And we're gonna just use this. And I will use this as one of the trains for my companies, so we don't have to lay it on the company. But the very first thing you do is you lay track, okay? You can't do anything else. You must lay track first. And so when you're laying track and you're a regional company, I'm trying to bring this into view, a regional company gets 3 tile points, which is used for track. So here you can see a minor is 3, a regional is 3, and a major is 6. So we're going to get 3 track points with Plum. And so Plum, I'm going to position this so you can see. Plum is located right here. And so I have a whole stack of options that are available. And what we want to do is we want to avoid the hills and mountains. And we want to go to Paris, and we also want to go to the port. So Plum is looking for this one. So we need a Y city because this has a Y. The biggest newbie mistake you can make with this game is accidentally put a regular tile over a Y city. And if you do that, you're basically causing yourself to lose the game. These Y cities are more valuable than regular cities. The regular cities are only worth 20. These are worth 30. So don't make that mistake. And so I put down the tile. That's 1 tile point. And then I have 2 more tile points left. So one of the things that you can do is you can collaborate with the other player and say, you know, whoever has A, which I think is Medici, Medici, are you okay with linking up with me? And if he agrees that he's going to link up with you, then you don't have to lay track. You can let him lay this track over here. And in this case, Medici does agree. to link up because Medici, it's in his best interest as well. Now, Medici does want to go this way, but he is not in a hurry. So with that in mind, Plum is going to not go towards Medici because he doesn't have to, and instead he's going to grab a curve for 2 tile points, and then right here is a town or a whistle stop, so he has to be mindful of that, and so then he's going to put a whistle stop in for 3. So that's his track laying turn. Next, he can place a token. Now, placing a token means he can place one of these, and it costs money. Now, every player board is exactly the same, so I don't need to go show you the Plum board, although the Plum board is right next to me here. The very first token, and the only token that a regional can place, is $20. Now, those companies that went major, they can place this one for $20, and then they can place any of these as well for $40 up to $80. All right, money is at a premium in the beginning of the game, and $20 is a lot of money. So Plum does not want to place a token, and more importantly, there's nowhere to place one. So he has to have a city to put it on, and he's already on the one and only city that he's connected to. So that's another rule of the game. You might be wondering, can I just place a token anywhere? No. You can only place a token where you can trace a route from your already existing token. So at this point in time, he has nowhere to place a token. So I'm just explaining the rules, probably a little more long-winded than necessary. In your very first turn, you're going to skip step 2 almost exclusively. Step 3, we run trains. Well, guess what? We don't own any trains. But here's what's important. You run the trains before you buy a train. See, step 6 is when you buy trains. So your very first turn, you're not going to make money, period. And so all of these guys who went into the major stock market are all going to go backwards because they're going to make no money and they can't pay their dividends to their shareholders. Okay? So that's an important thing, and it's why you don't necessarily want to go major at the start of the game. But there's other reasons you go major that sort of counterbalance it. But anyways, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We run trains, so we can't do that. We pay, split, or hold. Okay, that is what it means is you're paying your shareholders. So after you run your trains and collect your revenue, you then have to pay out. You can split the pay, which we call half cap. You'll hear me use that term. Or you can hold the money, meaning that the company can just selfishly keep it, and then you go backwards on the stock track. You can transfer tokens. This rule is not used very often, but the few times in the game where it doesn't get used is pretty nice. I actually don't even remember the rules. We'd have to look it up. That's how rarely it is used. And believe it or not, when I play with my friends, I'm usually the only one that's ever implemented this rule, but I always have to look it up every time. Transferring tokens just simply means, so let's say I own both A and PLM, but A is blocking my PLM company from being able to go through the port. What I can do is I can transfer this and say PLM is going to buy this token, and then I basically take this off the board and replace it with a PLM token. That's what transfer means, and you have to actually pay some serious money to do it, but it's when you do want to do it, it's worth it. In the beginning of the game, you're never going to worry about that. Buy trains, ding, 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 that's the big thing. And then the company can buy and sell shares. It is restricted. The company can only buy and sell its own shares, and it can only buy shares from the market, which right now the market is over here, and you can see it's empty. So that's that big box there. If there's shares that are in the market, then the company is actually able to buy its own shares if it wants. It can also sell its own shares, and it would go to the market. So that's where it would go. If a company sells its own shares, the stock price will drop just like it would in any other situation where shares are sold. But the company gets all the money, and that is really valuable. And one of the things I want to point out now is you may remember I said that there was a whole bunch of us that put $65 and even the $60. Like, these are very popular, and here's why. This is the $65 track. When I start going up in value, I eventually hit here and here. When stock gets sold, it goes down. So it goes this way, okay? If you are here or there and somebody sells your stock, you're not allowed to go down because there's nowhere to go. You're as far down as you can go. So this floor is a wonderful place to sell your shares, and you get all the money and your stock value doesn't change. So it's not cheaty, it's per the rules, but so starting at a lower stock value has its benefits. Starting way up here at the top has different benefits. So that's where I'm saying that there's a lot of strategy here, and it's really hard to recognize for a new player, new to the game, but there's a lot going on, and starting here is a very deliberate thing that can lead to very deliberate results later in the game. Right now in the first round, we don't have to worry about any of that. So we are doing step 6. We're going to buy trains. So if I come over to Plum, a train costs $100, and I'll show you how I can tell in a second. So I'm taking $100 off Plum, and we're going to put it in the bank. Okay, and then I'm going to grab a train over here, and we know this because it says $100 right there. So we're going to grab $100. I'm sorry, I made the camera shake, and put it down. Now, I'm going to just do something real quick. Everybody is going this turn, and everybody is going to buy a train. So one of the things you can do to speed up the game is just grab $100 from everybody right now. And you have to be consistent about it, obviously, or otherwise you can screw yourself up if you forget things. So I just grabbed $100 from all my companies. And so I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 trains. So I'm going to put this down. And then what I would just do is come over here and grab 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we know that they're not going to run this round, but we could at least, to save time, we can get a train for all of our companies. And each company has their own set of trains and their own money, so you need to keep those separate. See how the trains are next to everybody's money? And it is impossible for you to personally own a train, by the way. Only companies can have trains. And so that's just a way to speed up the game a bit. Now, Plum is done with its turn, so we will move Plum down like so. Next up is Lizard, LRZD. That's the Russian company. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab a stack of these 2s. We know that this is one of my 2 trains. And I need 5 more. So I'm grabbing 5 more, and I'm just going to set them in front of my companies. And then the rest of the stack is going to go to the other side of the table. I'm just trying to make it so we don't have to keep going back and forth. So Lizard is first, and then SFAI, which is a Medici company. So we're going to do both of those. Let's do these in order here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to collect the $100 from everybody. So this is the Russian company here. And so we're going to take $100 from all the companies. Okay, so I got a big stack of hundreds, and move this over, and then we're going to give everybody a train. Now I know I have the money in the train column and the train in the treasury column. It does not matter. As long as you're keeping track of them, that's all that matters. Okay, and it's really hard for me to put the camera down, but I am now taking the money from Lord Wellington here. And some players don't even bother putting the $100 in the treasury. But anyways, Lord Wellington just bought a bunch of trains. Everybody's doing this. because it's cool. It's what the cool kids do. All right, Lord Wellington is done, and now we're moving over to Mr. Medici here. And again, I don't have anywhere, so I'm just gonna let you look there. Mr. Medici, we're taking $100 from all of his trains, or $100 from all of his companies, not trains. And it just so happens I used up every 2 train that was in my hand. Okay, so we said that it was Lizard's turn. Lizard is this company right here. And then after that, it will be SFAI, which is this company right here. Now remember, they don't have the 2 trains yet, but we're gonna go ahead and come back around. This is the part where it gets complicated, because sometimes you need to look at what's on their board, and sometimes you need to be over here. The beauty about being over here is I have all the track tiles. So let's go focus on Lizard, which is here. And so what does he want to do? He wants to connect to St. Petersburg, and he wants to obviously come down and eventually do a run to Constantinople. But right now, his priority is to connect to St. Petersburg or Moscow over here. Those are big paying cities. The city that he started out in is actually a crappy city. It's just a regular city. It doesn't pay very well. And so he wants to lay another token as soon as possible as well. If he only has 1 token in the game, that means he has to count this lower value city, which means he's going to get less revenue. If he can put his token over here in Moscow, which is a higher paying city, then he will be a lot better off. So he has a lot of work to do, because if you'll notice, Moscow's really far away. And come to think of it, I probably should have gone major with this guy, and I didn't, and that was a big mistake on my part. But so first thing we have to do is we have to put his city in. And so he's going to avoid the water and the mountains, and he's going to put in that situation. And he's going to put in a straight. And then you can see we have a double whistle stop. And so he's going to go straight through on a double whistle stop, like so. That's his 3. Remember, nobody collects any revenue this round, so you're gonna be able to lay 6 tiles before you get to run a train. That's the dilemma he's in. If he lays 3 more tiles, he's still not gonna be connected to another city. He could lay 1, 2, 3 and connect to this city, and that may be what he has to do next turn. I probably made a mistake. If I was paying more attention, I would have made this guy a major, because if I had made him a major, I get to lay 6 tiles per turn. And then on turn 2, I would have been able to make it all the way to Moscow. And that would have been fantastic. But my mistake, I did not do that properly. And don't worry, he can still be viable. He can still win this game. And so we're going to bring Lizard down. Next up is SFAI. SFAI is right here in Italy. So SFAI wants to connect to Paris or Berlin, and he's got an interesting dilemma. This Torino here will pay him money to connect to it. He can connect to it right away and get 30 bucks, or if he's willing to wait, he can get 40 bucks. But if he waits, he runs the risk that somebody else will come and connect to it. But remember, nobody can lay track in Italy except for those who start in Italy. And right now, that's only him. And of course, M and some of these other companies, but they're further south. So he feels pretty good that he doesn't have to do anything. It is a Y city, So we're gonna grab a Y city tile, and he's gonna make it so he can start to connect. Now you might be thinking, okay, isn't that connected? No, it's connected when I lay track here. Yes, I'm connected from this perspective, but I have to lay track here before I get the bonus, okay? So, so that's 1, and then we'll lay this for 2, and then we have a whistle stop. And here's some of the things that you'll see players do. I want to connect to this M city, so you would think that I would just turn and then connect. But I'm not going to do that. I'm actually going to go straight through and then turn here. And the reason why is because you want to include as many whistle stops in your route as possible. Remember, I told you that they don't impede you from running your train. So you want as many as you can, because as you get bigger and bigger trains, you want to have more and more whistle stops in your route. So that's the idea behind that, and it's a very important one to make. Newbies to the game will cut this corner and turn here and then turn here and leave this one out. And in the beginning of the game, it doesn't hurt them, but later on it does. So don't do that, and just go the extra step. And he has plenty of track points. He's going to be connected to this city by next turn, so he's not worried. Okay, so SFAI is done, and now it's our turn. We're going to do DSJ. DSJ is up here. Now, this is an interesting one. You can see here we have a yellow city. So this is like having a yellow track. It already has track built, is what I'm trying to say. Now, if I ever do want to upgrade that track to green, I'm going to have to pay that $45 you see there, which is not fun. And so here I get to lay some track, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to go grab a straight whistle stop here for 1, and a straight for 2, and then a straight whistle stop for 3. And yes, I am going into the $45 water. I'm trying to avoid going through this city because I don't want to hit cities, if you recall. And then I just bought my train, so I'm done with my turn. All right, so DSJ is done. Now SFR is going to go. That's Medici. So we're going to go ahead and do that right now. SFR is sitting here, and if you remember, I wanted to start laying track and heading towards France. So there's a ferry here, and it is a one-cost ferry. The one thing that there's cross-water expenses. And so if you're going by ferry to lay a token, it's $20 times the distance. If you're laying track, it's $5 times the distance. So distance is just the number of points you would have to spend. And so here it's just 1. See that little -1? So to lay track here is going to cost me $5 extra. So so SFR, I believe, is going to have the $5. So let's... The other thing is SFR wants to connect to another city to make revenue. But so what I'm going to do is, that's $5 to do that. And then the second one is here. And this is considered France. See, it even says it. So I can't build track anymore. But eventually, when I can, I'll be able to connect into France and go up to Paris. The third thing I forgot to do is I need to actually build my major city here. Remember, it's a Y city, so don't forget that. And so there we go. There's my 3 track points. SFR owes $5. So I'm going to have to go take care of that right now. The other thing that we need to be mindful of is these privates do give you bonuses. And as you can see, I'm not going and sitting where the player sits. So I could be missing out on some stuff. So let me do a quick evaluation here. De Gaulle was not going to use either of his privates this operating round, so I don't have to worry about that. He might use that central circle, but we'll see. Russia may not use his. We're going to figure that out. Coming down to here, Lord Wellington is not going to use his. Oh, he is going to place this, though, when we get to D. And then, yeah, Medici doesn't have any to use, but we looked at SFR, and SFR needs to pay $5. So let's do that real quick. And you may be wondering, well, how does SFR have so much money? He bought a share of SFR, if you remember. So SFR is rich. Oh, and this big stack of hundreds was me buying those trains. So let's get those put away before I mistakenly think that that's Medici's money. And leave it to sneaky Medici to try to steal. Just like our typical bank owner. Okay. Stopping to get a drink of coffee. Thank you for that. Okay, so we are done with SFR. So come back around. This is my dog Mindy enjoying the fireplace. Okay. So SFR is done, and now we are on to WW's turn. WW is a Russian company. Now, WW is in an interesting spot. It's considered Poland. This is Warsaw. And WW is actually closer to Berlin than he is to anything in Russia. But he's not allowed to lay track in Berlin. And this is where the Russian company may be better served to have at least one company over here so he could be building this way from this side and then this way from that side. He doesn't have that. So he's going to try to either connect the lizard or to try to connect, down south here. But he definitely needs to connect to somebody. And one of the things he can do right away is he can connect to this Brest-Litovsk. He'll get paid, and then he'll have two cities. It's not the most ideal, but it's definitely an option. And I think it's an option he's going to do. Now, I can go straight across, but what did I explain experienced people do? We turn. So 1, 2, 3. And then we'll make it back up and connect to the city after getting that whistle stop into our route. Okay, WW is done. Next up is A. And you might recall A is here in France. A does not have any special abilities that impact this phase of the game. So A is going to lay his track. And it's a Y city. Now, one thing about laying track, see how this is connected to the city itself? That means that you must preserve that connection. I can't do something like this. No, something like this would be bad because I can't go into the sea either. But let's just pretend that this was an actual spot. I can't do that because I'm cutting off this track that already existed. And I know it's not track, I know it's a port. I get that, but for the lack of a better term, it's a connection. You have to preserve all connections that were already connected to the city when you upgrade a tile or place a tile. So, for example, this one is already placed, and if I were to ever upgrade this to a green, I can't all of a sudden do this and then block off that connection that was already there. You have to always maintain the connections. So that's an important thing. Some 18xx games, I'm sure, let you break that rule, but most of them do follow this type of rule. So anyways, he placed that, and now we got a double whistle stop, which is good money. And then we have a straight. So A is done with his turn. Next up on the board is E. And I'm just looking around to figure out where E even is. Okay, E is in Russia. And he's right there. Okay, so I don't know how well you can see E, but he's in a spot that actually has 2. And when you have 2, that means as long as one of the spots are not taken, right? So as long as that spot's open, every company can go through there freely. You're not blocking anybody. And if a second company goes there, then of course those 2 companies can freely go through, but then everybody else is blocked. The other thing is these red zones don't need to be upgraded. They automatically upgrade themselves. And I know it's probably hard with the camera, but there's actually 4 numbers here. And so it says, like, for example, it has the number 3 and then it has $30 next to it. So what it's saying is during train phase 3, you can make $30. Right now we're on train phase 2. So, actually, I'm sorry. There's a blank next to the $30. So it's going to make $30 right now. And then during train phase 3, it's going to make $40. All right, so he wants to lay track. The problem is now there's this water zone. And so he's going to have to pay $30 to go through the water zone. And it is a whistle stop, so he can do this. But there's a couple of things. And I'm going to just swing around to the Russian. Let me just lay the track first, and then I'll explain what's going on. So we're going to go straight and then turn at the whistle stop. Okay, so it was a $30 cost. So we do have to pay money from E, but here's the thing. Russia gives you a 20% discount. That's what this means. On any improvements that are under mountains or swamp. So we get 20% off there, and then here we get 33% off as part of his bonus. His bonus says, the miner receives a 33% discount on all coastal river blue terrain costs. And then multiply the total cost for construction times 0.67, round down to the nearest pound. Each operating round, this miner may also spend 1 additional tile point when laying track as long as the point. So since we went through the swamp, I'm actually going to get an extra tile point. So I'm going to lay a 4th track. That's one of the bonuses. The second one is I'm basically getting 20% plus 33%. The designer said just cut it off at 50%. So basically, 33, 43, 53. Yeah, so we're basically getting a 33% plus a 20% discount. So that's roughly half off. So at $30, I owe 15. Now, I only have 10, but remember I told you, if you don't have enough money for a train purchase, which doesn't happen until after you lay your track, you can use personal money. So we're just going to take $5 from his personal money, and that is 100% legal. There's nothing illegal about what I just did. It's just that technically speaking, he would still have the $100 for buying his train. And then once he gets to the train purchase step, he'd be like, oh, I don't have enough. So now I got to do what's called a forced train purchase rule. And then he would take money from his private money. So it doesn't matter what order you do it in. And since we are laying an extra track point, sorry, I'm just trying to think what I want to do here. He's going to lay us straight. And I'm going to just put this down real quick so I can reach across the table. So he's going to go straight across, like so. All right, I know I spent a little bit extra time, but this triggered a couple of rules we haven't seen yet or experienced in the game. Another coffee drink. Okay, so that is E's turn. And now we go to Bell. Bell is the next company, and it is a French company. It's actually in Belgium. And you can see there's a $30 cost. And so I'm looking over at Bell right now. I believe Bell does have $30, 10, 20, 30. And we can check real quick. It's underneath this pile of stocks. His track rights are from France, and France does not give any discounts. So he has to pay full price to go through Swamp, and so, or Rivers or whatever. And so he has to pay the full 30 bucks. He doesn't get any discount. And he happened to have exactly that much. It's almost as if I planned it that way. All right, so let's put the camera down, and I'm gonna grab some track, and let's do some Bell. Okay, Bell's strategy is he wants to connect to Paris for sure. And then Lille here is also a very nice option. Amsterdam is a good option, but he can't lay track there. So for now, he's gonna do this as a 1. And he could lay the track underneath D, even though D hasn't gone yet. But instead, he's gonna run for Paris. Now, there's some things we have to consider. Paris and all metropolises have unique layouts. So you might see here that Paris has this 3-prong layout, and you can see that the track ends. It doesn't go straight through. So you can go to Paris, but not through it. And you can see there's only going to be 3 stations. So however you orient it, it's going to be, diagonally across from each other. So wherever Bell connects to Paris, so if you connect here, back this up. So if Paris is connected to here, then that means it's also going to be connected there and there. And you can see that Plum is coming up to connect this way. And so that's why he's turning instead of going straight. We always play, always, and I recommend that you guys do the same. We always play that if somebody realizes that the metropolis doesn't allow them to connect, we let them renege and go back and lay different track. It harms nobody, so don't be a dick in your games with other people. It harms nobody. There's very few times when that matters, but it is possible that there are some situations where if somebody lays Paris, they can lay it in such a way that you cannot connect to Paris, but we always let people get connected to Paris or whatever. If you're really that concerned about that being how you win or lose your game, you're a loser. This is a long game. There's a lot of economics to this game, and just let people connect to their city and be done with it. So anyways, this is a kindness thing. Some 18xx players are not very kind, and you're gonna run into that. And I think, and I've told many 18xx players that I've met, that this is the reason why nobody plays games with them, because they do these things and then they get anal about it. Anyways, you can tell I'm triggered, and I'm not even playing with one right now. I'll just have you know, I'm quite new to the 18xx community, and I beat them regularly, so it does upset them very much. But I beat them because they play the same way every time, and so it's real easy to counter them. But some of them are getting smart. I have a few friends who are also new to 18xx, and they can beat me pretty regularly too. So anyways, enough about that. Bell's done. Next up is Jay. And I have no memory where I put Jay. Jay is my company. And, oh, it's in Russia. Okay, so we have Jay all the way up here. And I just remembered I did not pay $100 for all my companies. So I'm going to do that right now. I'm taking $100 from all my companies to pay for my trains. Okay, so Jay is way up there in Finland. Now, why was Jay important to me? Jay was important because I have this DSJ company over in Sweden and Norway, and you'll notice that there's an extremely important ferry here that has a -1. So the only way you can negate that -1 is you need to have a token on one side or the other. So the J company, if it merges into my DSJ company, I will then have an ability to cross that ferry and move into Russia, which is a good option, especially since Mr. Russia is developing Russia so much. So right now I get to lay 3 track points, and it's going to be in Russia. And you can see there that Helsinki will pay me money if I connect to them. But I'm not going to worry about the money at this point. So I'm going to do 1, 2, 3. I want to get connected to St. Petersburg as quickly as I can. So that's my turn. Now we're going to company M, and I'm trying to figure out where M is. M belongs to Medici. Oh, it's here in Italy. All right, so M has a $30 cost. So that's not good. But we're going to do, remember how I said you have to not be a noob, and you want to maximize your money. So that's going to cost him $30, and I believe Italy does give discounts. We'll look that up. So 1, and I'm just trying to find a double whistle stop tile here that matches my needs. This game is component limited, so if you cannot find the tile that goes the direction you want, you cannot build it. So there's 2, and we'll lay that for 3. He knows that SFI AI is going to do that. So now, he also knows SFAI would lay this. So why did he lay this himself? Because these are one of the limited components. So there's not that many straight double whistle stops in the game. So he's claiming it now so nobody else takes them. And then whenever it becomes his turn again, they could be gone. And then they're sort of out of luck. So you don't want to do that. So sometimes you want to be a little selfish. Okay, so he did that. And now we got to check to see if M has $30. So let's do that right now. I don't think it does. But remember, we have our beginning of the game rule. So first things first, the track rights are 20%. So that means he only owes $24. And here's 20 of those dollars. So he owes $4. So we're going to take $5 from Medici's personal stash. And Medici will get $1 and change. Okay, the company is not going to have any money, and that's fine. All right, so that ends M's turn. Come back around. Hey, Mindy. All right, so now we go to G's turn. G is a Russian. Oh, yeah, Mr. Russia owns G, but we screwed him. And he wasn't able to put it in Russia. So G is up here. Now, G is an interesting company. It's not a very valuable spot for a company, but in Russia's case, remember how we built J up here and I was telling you I need a token so I can cross the ferry? This is the same exact concept, except Russia's doing it the other way around. They're trying to cross the ferry to get into Norway. And there is a ferry at G, but that's not the one we care about. G wants to get up there and put a token up at North Sweden. But for now, it does need to lay a tile, and it's going to cost $30 to do that. And I believe there's a 20% discount for this. And so, yes, there is. So it's going to cost $24 for G. So we'll take care of that in a second. And then G is going to lay a double whistle stop. Interesting. Yeah, I guess. So here's what made me pause. That port is more important than this port because I want to skip that city. But right now, G needs to, so when we get the green track, we can upgrade this and then eventually get that port in. This port's important because St. Petersburg, which is over here, St. Petersburg is connected to this, and this is all one C zone. So St. Petersburg can go with a 2 train from here straight to there. And that's a really lucrative route. But that's only possible if you connect this port to that. And so actually we can do that. Actually that is the better thing. I'm not being smart. So let me back this up. We're gonna do that instead. So 1, 2, 3, like so. That's more important for G. And then what we'll do is you can see that there's another arm here, and then he'll come down and connect to the port that way. All right, so G is that company right there. So I'm gonna swing around, and we need to take 24 bucks from him to pay for his track. So we can see here he has $10, $20, $5. He's Mr. Moneybags, Jesus. And then he gets $1 back. Okay, so next up is D. D is a fun one. That is Lil. It's not going to be very fun from a track laying perspective, but so Lil's not allowed to lay track in Britain. So what we will do is we are required to connect to the ferry, and he has no problem connecting to Bell. Bell is the most lucrative option for him. He could, well, you know what? No. We're not going to connect. We're going to do that. We're going for Paris. And the reason we're going for Paris is there's not that many companies in France. In fact, there are 4 companies in France, and he will get to claim one of the Paris. So he has to, so remember, for Paris, we're going to have a connection here, a connection there. The last one is going to be here, so he's going to come around and come into Paris that way. So there's his 3 track points. And I'm going to walk off camera to go over to Wellington's desk, but there's a special token for D, and we're going to put that on the board. So miner D is one of the best miners in the game. It has this ability, so this token says plus 20 on it. I know the camera is not focusing very well. And so what that means is this says it's a $30 city. It is now a $50 city when D goes through there. Now, all the other companies, they still only get 30 bucks, but whoever controls the D company will get $50. And so that is now actually the highest value city in the entire game. And you get that from day one. So it's a very powerful thing. Now, obviously he made no revenue this turn because he had no trains, but starting next operating round, he will get some nice revenue. Next up is RCP. So we're gonna swing over here. RCP is our Portugal company. And RCP We're gonna lay 3-track. So how do we want to do this? Okay, so this K company down here is going to connect up to Portugal. That is the smartest move, and they can talk to each other to verify that that's really what's going to happen. So then what the Portugal company is going to do is they're going to try to go to Madrid. So they're going to come out the top here. And this is where, you know, experience with laying track shenanigans is going to pay off for you. So what he's doing is, you can see it looks like a weird, you know, going around thing, but he's leaving this open so the K company can come up and connect to Portugal. And that way the tracks don't interfere with each other. So you can have some nice clean routes. And so he only gets to lay 3, and those are the 3 he will lay. And he's working towards Madrid, which is just off the camera that way. All right, so now we go to company L, which is our company, and this is gonna be one of our amazing companies. It's a miner, yes, but it's an amazing miner, and it's in Britain. So first things first, L has a port, and I know it doesn't look like it, but it says Edinburgh here. It's really hard to see on the camera. And then this little symbol means it's a port that, like, the port symbol is for something that's more inland, and that's what Edinburgh is. Oh, I'm sorry, Glasgow is here. So, so that's the first thing. And the port allows it to go by sea, of course, but it also goes by this ferry, and that ferry goes all the way up to Sweden and Norway. And actually it says Narvik. So Narvik is a wonderful spot. It's one of the highest paying in the start of the game. And so it's a really great place to be. And then of course you can make your way down to London, but that takes a few more turns to do. The other thing is, when you see this symbol, and here's the matching symbol, right? So that's how you know to match them. I don't need my track to be oriented any particular direction. That port exists no matter which way my track's oriented. So I'm going to lay this track, and basically we're going to connect to Glasgow. And that is a $30 cost. But I'm gonna lay the Glasgow and make $30, which then counteracts it. And here's what's interesting. The Glasgow had one of those special symbols. And if you look on the board, right there's the port for Glasgow, and it's actually way up here, which actually has a really nice link to New York. And so Glasgow is one of those companies that, if you happen to have Star Harbor, like I do, you can use it to lay down a port, like so. And what that port does is it allows you to use that as a port to connect to things like New York. And you can ignore it though as part of your trains. So, because this is a crappy city, it's not worth a lot. But now I can count New York, skip this, and go straight into there. And so that's a pretty sweet little route. I don't know if I want to do that, but that's a really nice option. And I don't have to make that decision right now, but I am set up to do that, and it's an excellent use of Star Harbor. So the third track is going to be this, so we can connect there. Okay, that finishes L's turn, and I am at an hour, so I'm going to end the video, and we'll see you soon.